Good afternoon. Welcome to InfoSec for Cheapskates. The obligatory introduction slide. I've been in IT since the late 20th century. I've had a wide variety of roles. Developers in quotes because the modern definition of developer doesn't really fit with a COBOL programmer in 1988, but that's all right. I became the technical lead on a PCI compliance project because nobody else wanted it and I didn't know what I was getting into. And that led me to the opportunity to move into InfoSec. So one of the takeaways here is that I'm really new to information security, which is how I came to get into the cheap side of it. And it also means that for every point I make in the presentation, at least one of you will have one way to correct me or improve upon what I've given. That's fine. We're here to start a discussion, so that's okay. When I did move into InfoSec, the first real impression I had was how little I knew. People would send me emails, how's the job going? Do you like information? What's information security like? And instead of replying with emails, it got tiresome, so I just reply with this. That's the last 2 years of my life right there in one picture. So I started building a home lab to get hands-on experience with the stuff I was reading about. You can only read so much, and eventually you have to, walk the walk instead of talk the talk. And for what should be obvious reasons, I didn't want to pay tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars for solutions. So I began to look for cheap solutions to big problems. I found them, which is why I'm here. So I wanted to share what I've learned. Quick disclaimers, I'm not an expert, I just play one at the office. This is not by any stretch of the imagination an exhaustive list of free tools. I have not tried all of these tools, I've tried most of them, and I've not made all the tools that I did try actually work properly. In the case where I was unable to get the tool to work properly, the fault should be assumed to be mine, not the tool's. But the bottom line is just to get the discussion started, just to make sure that you know that there are lots of free options available, and for any InfoSec problem you have, there's at least one free solution that you can try. So that's where we're going. In the beginning, I had an opportunity to work with Tripwire, which is a file integrity monitoring tool. I wanted to play around this with my own. I have this weird belief that you don't test things in production, so, and didn't really have much of a test environment, so I needed one of my own. And at home, there was a Raspberry Pi that was serving static web pages sitting under my entertainment center. And it seemed like a pretty good target, so I went surfing around, and I found that there is a free version of Tripwire that you can easily get. Turns out it's even a standard package for Debian and Raspbian. If you're in that mood, it's just an apt-get and install, and you're ready to go. It's command line only. The default configuration is messy. So the default configuration tries to do more than just file integrity management. It tries to monitor running processes through the files that they leave behind. And so there's a lot of false positives, a lot of changes, a lot of constant change. You want to change that. You don't want to run it right out of the box. It just doesn't work that well. It's also old. So it's from 2002, roughly. But, FIM isn't really as dynamic as, say, vulnerability scanning or antivirus. So the fact that, a file was modified in 2002, kind of the same way that it's modified now, it works pretty well. The bottom line is it works, and I recommend it. The next step, to take it one step further, was vulnerability scanning. Okay, so now I've got some home computers. Let's see what we can do to find out how clean they are. Had an opportunity to work with Nessus, and again, production test, let's keep those separate, no test environment. So I found a free version of Nessus out there. Nessus vulnerability scanner works against all kinds of Windows, Linux targets. So the free version, a registration is required. You need to sign up for an account so they can spam you with email. It's limited to 16 target IP addresses. What it won't do is it won't do compliance checks. So Nessus has quick checkboxes that you can set up for things like PCI compliance, and it'll just do its thing and tell you whether you're compliant or not. The free version doesn't do that. I would submit that if you're in a PCI environment, hopefully you've got the budget to actually buy Nessus. Yeah, PCI on the cheap is a whole different thing. But it has the current engine, its current signatures, it's freely updatable. You can download the latest signatures and you're good to go. It doesn't have support, so you kind of have to do that on your own. Installed on a Windows VM, same interface as the paid version, and you're off and running. So, way early. Okay. Nessus isn't the only horse in the vulnerability scanning race, and it's not the only free solution either. OpenVAS is a server that runs Linux. It is now part of the Greenbone commercial solution. Okay. Yeah, we don't have any. One of the reasons that I'm here is that this talk isn't really well suited to, larger conventions that are sponsored by the people that I'm trying to save hundreds of thousands of dollars from. So I had to hastily check this morning and make sure they hadn't added anybody at the last minute that I would be offending. So OpenVAS runs on Linux. It's part of the Greenbone commercial solution, but it is a free part of that solution. What you have to do is you have to get the community edition, which all of these people, their websites are finely engineered to steer you away from the free edition, right? It's like this little 2-pixel icon up in the corner that you can click on if you know the right moon phase or whatever. So OpenVAS is available as a VM ISO image, so it quickly installs, scans Linux and PC, works pretty well. I've played around with that one a little bit. Another one is Qualys FreeScan. This is more of what I was expecting from free solutions. Its best use is to decide whether you want to pay the hundreds or tens of thousands of dollars and get the full Qualys product. It's really limited. It's cloud-based, so you can only do external scanning, and it has a limit. I'd never seen this one before. This was new. It has a limit of 10 scans, lifetime. That's it. It'll scan something 10 times, and then it stops, and you do something else. So that was kind of a weird one. Next up, appropriate enough, is Nexpose. So Nexpose Community Edition, again, you have to look for it. It has a 32 IP limit. It's free, but it's licensed. You have to sign up for a free 1-year license, and then next year you have to confess that you're using their free product again, and then you can use it for another year. It installs on Windows, Linux, or as a VM, and kind of like Qualys, you don't get what you don't pay for, right? OpenVAS is really the best of breed in this sort of thing. There are still others, the Retina CS community. I haven't played with this one much. It's a 2-parter. You have to install the network community as the scanner, and then the CS community actually attempts to do patching. So this is one I wish I'd had more time to look into, to be honest with you, because it would be nice to see a free service that does the patching too. See how that works. And there are others. SecureCheck is one of them. The Microsoft Baseline Security Analyzer is free from Microsoft, which is cool. They have lots of disclaimers that it doesn't work for Windows 10. Yeah, well, why have a tool that supports your latest product? But of more concern to me is what they define as not supported, because I loaded it up on my Windows 10 laptop, this one right here, and it worked like a charm. Gave me all kinds of reports, told me things that were vulnerable. So really the question is, what's it missing? Like, why is it not supported? So I'd recommend you try that, but I would only recommend you try that if you bounce it off some other kind of vulnerability scan to see what the two comparisons are. Although, you do run the risk of being the man with 2 watches who never knows really what time it is, so take that with a grain of salt as well. So I've got free FIM, I've got free vulnerability scanning. How far can I take this? I was surprised. I kind of opened Pandora's box. And so we're going to next take a look at I've got a bunch of little Raspberry Pis sitting around. They're all generating little logs, little Raspberry Pi logs. And so maybe I want to start collecting them. So let's see if we've got a free solution for SIEM. And the answer is, okay, free SIEM starts with Splunk. Commercial product. How many people have seen or used Splunk? Do I really need? That's fewer than I thought, so I'll carry on a little bit. It's a standard product. There's lots of commercial solutions built around it. Splunk has a lot of good functionality to it. So what you want is the free, if you're hunting for the free version, like I am, what you want is Splunk Lite, but not regular Splunk Lite. Okay, so when you go to the website, you'll see Splunk Lite, and you'll see Splunk Medium, and you'll see Splunk Extra Expensive, or whatever it is. And then way up in the corner, it'll say Splunk Free, and it takes you to the Splunk Lite download page. So you kind of, anyway, it's there. You have to look for it. Limitations: 500 megabytes of logs per day. In my Raspberry Pi network, that's plenty. Thank you. Limited to one user. So Splunk has different user types that you can set up, so different people get different kinds of reports and all that kind of stuff. That's great. In the free version, you can only set up one admin user. You can't piddle around with different user types. And it will not perform alerting. It will do dashboards, reports, it'll do searching, anomaly detection, and you can use all of the add-ons that people have built for commercial Splunk in Splunk Free, Splunk Lite. So, good solution. It has local agents that gather and forward the logs, especially on Linux. So there's some maintenance issues when you scale up, but for the free solution, for my purposes, it was great. There are others. Graylog 2 is really well documented, good product. It installs on anything. It does use the Mongo database, so if you're familiar with how that's gone over the past 6 months, great, use Graylog 2, change your Mongo database password, and you'll be fine. And another one is the Enterprise Log and Search Archive. This one's not as well documented. It hasn't been updated in a while, but it is still a viable alternative. So now we've got SIEM going. I've got my Raspberry Pi network going. I've got all kinds of things going. Maybe I want to start monitoring these machines a little bit more closely. Not my kid's machine. No, that's a different subnet. I don't want to know that. I don't want to know what's going on there. Nagios Core is a network monitoring tool. It has 50 plugins that you can use to perform different checks of all the machines on your network. A lot of community support. It is very complex to install and configure, and it does require an agent on the client computers. As I was researching Nagios, and by the way, I do have the core running on a Raspberry Pi, if you're one of those people who likes to fit elephants into phone booths. But the primary impression that I have of Nagios Core is, as I was doing the research on this, I ran across a video on YouTube. And it's a 32-minute presentation, much like me standing up here, and the title is Stop Using Nagios. So there's some backlash. The upshot of the presentation is that it doesn't scale well, it's complex, it's tough to do, and the replacement that is presented involves about 8 moving parts that all require integration between them, so I'm not sure that it presents a viable alternative, but it does give you an idea of how tough Nagios is that this guy would want to do 7 different things to try and get rid of it. So take that with a grain of salt too. So what about HIDS, HIPS? Okay, well, starting with Snort. Snort, anybody? Snort? Yeah, okay. Snort's pretty much the standard. Out of the box, the free Snort doesn't have much of a GUI, but there's lots of community support, and a lot of that community support is free GUIs that you can get. You can write your own rules for Snort. You can also write Snort rules that are used in other products. It's become kind of a standard format for rule writing. And there are a lot of commercial applications that are built around Snort. So you might be looking at, I'm not going to name any vendors, but you might be looking at a firewall solution or firewall hardware that is running Snort on the inside. So studying Snort helps become familiar with what your other hardware is capable of. Suricata is Snort on steroids, really. It's multi-threaded for better performance. Snort runs on a single CPU, a single thread, and Suricata can take advantage of multiple CPUs. It also takes advantage of the GPU to improve performance, much the way a Bitcoin miner would. So it can up the throughput nicely. If you're familiar with Snort and you're having performance problems with it, Suricata might be an answer for you. BroIDS is also a solution. They're trying to convert packets into security events and kind of do a little bit more work. I haven't had good results with that one, but your mileage may vary, right? OSSEC is kind of hard to categorize because it does HIDS as well as file integrity management or monitoring. It has some appeal that we'll see in a later slide. And one of the tools that I didn't get a chance to play with enough is Kismet, which is a Wi-Fi IDS. You can you can use it to detect rogue access points. You can use it to detect duplicate networks that are set up for man-in-the-middle attacks. It's multi-platform, including Android, and this is definitely on my to-do list to play around with this a little bit more. So we all know that security solutions are merging into all-in-one solutions. Your FIM vendor's now going to be offering HIDS, and your HIDS vendor's now going to be telling you can monitor files. It makes sense from the customer standpoint because you only have to learn one application instead of 3 or 4. Makes sense from the vendor standpoint because they get a bigger share of your wallet. So is there something free that I can look at that might be trying to do that? Well, the answer is yes. Security Onion is a Unix-based distro, installs straight from an ISO, installs on a VM, and it contains a lot of the tools already that I've already talked about. So it contains Snort, it contains the LSA, it has OSSEC on it, it has BroIDS on it, it has a number of other tools. I haven't found a live or a bootable USB version yet, but that kind of makes sense if you think about it, because whereas, Security Onion really is to defense what Kali is to offense, okay? So it's kind of an all-in-one distro that helps you protect things. But if you think about it, temporary offense from a live CD makes sense. Temporary defense from one doesn't. So I'm not sure that that's something that would even be of value, but I'm still looking for it. So honeypots. Threw this slide in because, kind of for fun, because A, I'm looking into honeypots, and B, I haven't actually found any that are paid, to be honest with you. Every honeypot that I've found is freeware and can install on all kinds of different things. Obviously, the volume of traffic is the limiting factor there. Working from the simplest, Kippo is an SSH honeypot. Installs fairly easily unless you have the wrong version of the Raspbian, which I do, so that was a bit of an issue. There is an updated version of that called Kauri, which you can try. Glassdoff is more versatile and modular. So with Kippo, you're basically looking for an SSH traffic. With Glassdoff, you can set up different things that you're looking for. Am I looking for SSH TAC? Am I looking for SQL injection? What am I looking for? And it kind of turns modules on and off as it goes. And the next step up from that is Maze Runner. Maze Runner is a honeypot framework, and it installs as a VM, but you need to allow that VM to nest VMs. So what happens is, with Maze Runner, you say, okay, I want to set up this type of target, and it spins up a separate VM for that target. So rather than having all of your honeypot targets have a single IP or something like that, it spins up different machines as needed inside of itself, to present targets to the outside world. The other thing it does that's pretty cool is it'll put breadcrumbs on your endpoints as lures directing traffic into the honeypot. So it's a pretty cool solution. How am I doing? I'm getting close. So that's about as far as I've gotten. The search for free stuff continues. I'd like to find a free network mapper that's graphical, something similar to the Dude. I don't know if has anybody heard of the Dude? No. Okay, I'll talk about the Dude. The current version of the Dude is tied to Microtic or Microtik hardware. I don't know how to say that. Older versions of it exist, and basically it does an Nmap scan or something similar to that and presents a graphic representation of where things are. But if you're using the hardware that it's tied to, it can go into the routers and find subnets and present you with a whole kind of blown out tree of where everything lives. There may be a Maltego transformation for that, but I haven't found it yet. I haven't even started looking for free forensic solutions. I'm sure they're out there, and so that's kind of next on the agenda. The search is not over, it's ongoing. Come back in 2 years, it'll be an hour presentation, you'll have slides. So, in summary, a free solution will exist for your problem. It will be crappy, it'll be awesome, or it'll be somewhere in between, just like commercial software is. It's generally more work to set up and maintain than the paid product, and you don't often have support other than digging through forums and blogs. And it can be amazingly educational given time and patience. So that is the rundown. Are there questions? Somebody in the back. I can't see you, but I can hear you. Oh, okay. The comment was that Splunk, in addition to having just a single user, has no authentication. So you don't really want to use that in a production environment or where you care about. Anything else? Any others? Yeah. Yeah. Pardon? Have you ever looked at the ELK? No.
It's kind of like the same thing. It's a free sim that takes log inputs and it just generates beautiful graphs.
Oh, okay.
Like a firewall, for instance, you can push the logs from the firewall to ELK, and it will beautifully graph users, where they came from, what websites you were going to, and you can even filter. So if you want to look at specific protocols, for instance, you can expand like that with you, and it's free. Something on the
Excellent. Okay, I have no way to paraphrase that into something that will fit on the video, but ELK is a good solution that I didn't cover. How's that? Apologies to the people watching this 10 years in the future. I don't know. Any other questions? Okay, yeah, sorry.
Have you used ZenMap as a GUI for network mapping? It's basically just like a front end for
No, I know what ZenMap is as a GUI front end. I didn't realize that it produced graphical results as well.
It's not as rich as the Dude.
Okay.
Now I'm looking at it, but it does have some like graphical mapping.
I will add ZenMap to my list. Thank you. Anything else? Oh, yeah. Too complicated for me. The question was in the Nagios video, what was the alternative? The answer is too complicated for me to remember, but I have the URL and can give it to you if you want. So it wasn't one thing. It was 6. It was at least 6 different pieces to do the same job. So, but again, talk to me afterwards, and I can get you the link for that. Any other questions? Okay, if not, if something comes to you later on, feel free to interrupt me because I brought my lab with me. So it's all here. And my backpack weighs 50 pounds, so, thank you.